The Ryder Cups have been a big part of Sky Sports News, which celebrates its 25th birthday today. Kelly Cates was a presenter on the very first ever hour of Sky Sports News. She joins us live. Good afternoon, Kelly. You well?
Yeah, good morning, sports fans. Were the very first words ever spoken on Sky Sports News.
Yeah, it was magical, wasn't it? Look, before we look back together, let's remind our viewers and you of your very first appearance. Take a look at this.
Good morning, sports fans. It's Monday, August the 10th. I'm Mike Wedderburn.
And I'm Kelly Dalgleish. And you're watching history being made. This is Europe's first ever 24-hour sports news service, Sky Sports News.
Yes, it is. And you won't believe how much great sport we've got coming up for you. Goals, information, news and interviews. An irresistible mix for sports fans everywhere.
And on this, our first day, we bring you all the reaction to the Charity Shield and news from every Premiership club as we go on the golf course with Leicester and reveal a massive shock for Coventry fans.
Massive shock for Coventry fans. Look, Kelly, how does that clip make you feel when you listen to it again?
Nothing's changed, has it? I mean, I was clearly terrified. I was so far out of my depth. I was 22, straight out of university and into Sky Sports News. Luckily, at that stage, it wasn't really broadcast anywhere outside the building. I think they were launching new Sky dishes at the time, and so they hadn't even really been properly rolled out. So, luckily, nobody really got to see that. The problem now is obviously Sky Sports News is so much bigger. It's an institution, and now they can find those. Well, there were tapes at the time, and I thought they were lost in the building, but no, somebody's managed to dig them out and find them. But yeah, it was. No, we all came in and we were all quite raw. Some of us a lot more raw than others. But it was such a great opportunity because you were getting so many hours of live television every single day, and there's just nowhere else that you'd be able to get that practice.
What do you remember most about those early days? We had Claire Tomlinson on earlier and she was sort of saying paper, basically. There was just loads of reams of paper, which we just don't have nowadays. So what were your fondest memories, perhaps?
Yeah, sheets and sheets of paper. I think once we had a runner called Trish, who was like really, because in those early days we were each other's social lives as well as each other's colleagues, because we worked such strange hours and we'd all kind of moved down to London at the same time. And Trish came into the studio and delivered our scripts to us on the desk in the middle of us reading out a link or something, and we're like, oh, thanks very much, carry on, and kind of do that. But it was so unpolished and sort of natural in those days. So it was really, really good fun. But yeah, paper's one of the things. Genuinely, the fear is one of the things that I remember most of all, particularly from those first few weeks until we kind of got used to the rhythm of it, but also just how much fun we had. I mean, the people who I started out in Sky Sports News with, a lot of them are still really close friends to this day, and we started working on something at the same sort of stage in our lives, and something we all really cared about, and it's something that we still talk about with real fondness, those early days at Sky Sports News, where I mean, now it's so polished and so professional that there wouldn't be room for many of us to come into it now, because you have to be able to hit the ground running. But we were able to come in, learn on the job and make friends and just have fun.
Yeah, I remember that well, coming in and making all the mistakes. I still do now, unfortunately. We'll leave that there, though. Look, how groundbreaking was it, though, to have this 24-hour sports news channel? Nobody else was doing this, were they?
No, and I think we were all a bit concerned as to how you were going to fill 24 hours of television with sports news, because it had never been done before. It would be sort of wrapped up into a half-hour or hour-long programme of sports headlines every day. So that was a real concern, as whether or not there was going to be enough sport to fill the time, which seems ridiculous now. And I think that was one of the things we were worried about. But it did feel really different. And the way we used to describe it was like teletext with pictures. But now you couldn't even say that, because I think a lot of people watching wouldn't know what teletext was. So we'd be struggling for kind of the same sort of references.
What was your best moment? I mean, I can recall corpsing live on TV with Rob Watton, and he just told me that he did the same with you as well. But what was your fondest memory, do you think?
Oh, yeah. Rob and I worked together on the evening shift for quite a long time. And we got an email at one stage that says, well, we want our presenters to look like they're having fun. You two are just immature and silly. So we had to dial it back a little bit. We got a bit carried away by the whole thing. But yeah, Rob was so much fun to work with. But then even like the early days with Mike was so helpful to me because he had some experience in television, which was crucial for me, who came into it completely cold. And so he was this kind of very solid presence beside me who was completely unflappable. And that really, really made a difference for me because I was just an absolute bag of nerves the whole time.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I actually did my very first shift with Mike Wedderburn and he held my hand throughout, not literally, metaphorically though, for sure. Did you have a favourite? Do you have a favourite co-presenter that you work with? TV husband or TV wife even?
Oh, no, I can't do that. I mean, I've worked with so many of the early people as well. I mean, I started with Mike and then I moved on to evenings with Julian Waters and with Rob Watton. I worked occasionally with Clarkey and with Dave Jones, who now obviously is doing the Premier League football. So I worked with so many different people. David Boban, who was there for a while. I used to work in the evenings with him. George Gavin, sort of all these kind of names from the past. And they were all brilliant to work with and all in completely different ways. But we just used to make it. I like the variety. I like being able to work with different people, and you wouldn't run out of your sort of stories that you were telling in between, like during the VTs when you've seen it for the second or third time and you're sitting there going, so what have you been up to this weekend? It was nice to catch up with everybody. But yeah, as I say, we weren't quite as professional in those days. I'm sure you're doing much better now at kind of keeping yourself focused.
Yeah, 100%, Kelly, absolutely. Right, did you ever imagine, though, take us back to your childhood, because, of course, you grew up with your dad, the Liverpool manager probably throughout a lot of your childhood and then went on to Blackburn as well. I mean, did you ever imagine, as a child growing up, that you would be a sports TV presenter and go on to do what you've done?
No, and not because of the reasons that are often given, which is that I didn't see other women doing it, because there were other women working in football at the time. People like Hazel Irving was there, and you know, you had people who were already working in sports television. So I saw women sort of presenting sport. So I didn't rule it out for those reasons. It just wasn't something that I ever thought I would be comfortable doing, or a door that would be open to me, just in terms of the path I wanted my life to take. Because I went off to university and, well, started but didn't finish a maths degree. So my life was going in a very different direction. And then just before the end of my degree, I got offered a chance to go into Sky Sports News, and they were setting up this brand new channel, and they were looking for enthusiasm rather than experience. And so I just kind of threw my hat in the ring and made my way down to Osterley, and then, yeah, just ended up, I think just a couple of weeks later I was in, and we did, I want to say maybe a week or 2 weeks prep with a guy called Ed Percival, who kind of just took us through the nuts and bolts of it. And then it was, right, on you go then, that's you ready to go and make live telly.
Wonderful. Look, just finally, because I know you've got to go because you're so busy. I mean, for me, you're one of those people that I always looked up to, even though you are younger than me. It has to be said live on TV. But you're always one of those people that just got everything so perfect. And I understand that you say you were so inexperienced when you started, but you never looked like that, Kelly. And look what you've gone on to achieve. And I just wanted to sort of get a final word from you as how important Sky Sports News has been to sort of a part of your life, but also bringing all these stories to life.
Yeah, that's very kind of you to say that. It certainly hasn't felt that way in terms of being in front of camera. And we've also just seen the pictures that completely disprove what you just said about the way it was when I just started out. But yeah, there's still times when, you know, it still feels the same to be that kind of 22-year-old in front of the camera. There's still times when I'm doing something new or for the first time, when you still get that kind of nervousness. But I always try to explain it to my kids now when they're nervous about something. I'm like, excitement and nerves feel the same. It feels the same. And that's kind of the mantra that I try to get into them. And that's what I try to remember if I'm ever nervous or worried about doing something new for the first time. But I've been really, really lucky because, as I said, the timing of the start of my career started at the same time as Sky Sports News. And to get all those hours of practice in, when we were all very new at the job, and when mistakes were made and we were all trying to cover for each other because we were such a kind of close unit at that time. You never wanted to throw anybody under the bus. So we were all trying to make sure that if there was a mistake, that it was covered up and it was all made smooth, not just because of the viewer experience, but because we didn't want to let our mates down. So I think all of that experience, all of that kind of the novelty of it, the excitement of it, I think that sort of stays with you. But also the lessons that we learned when everything did go wrong, that could go wrong, you learn to kind of cope with it and roll with it. So they've been the two big things that have stayed with me. And of course, my really good friends as well, because two of the women who I started working on Sky Sports News with are now godmothers to my daughters. And so it's, you know, there are still those kind of personal connections as well.
Yeah, it's lovely. It's always lovely to catch up with you, Kelly, our First Lady. Thank you so much.
And you.